Hey traders, Raghee here. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you all had a great weekend. It is time for some charts and coffee. Rocking the Viking mug today because that is the mode I am in. Full on pillage. I'm looking forward to the week as we wind down summer and head into the fall trading season. And as always, we're here to take your questions, take a look at what's going to be moving the market this week, and take a look also at the markets they're going to be on our radar. What does on our radar mean? On the radar. I get that question quite a bit. Rug, what does that mean? Does that mean you're in a trade, that you're setting up a trade? So on the radar, just imagine the radar and it's pinging and pinging. So I don't have a position. It's something better than on the watch list. I'm watching it, but now it's starting to get closer and closer to doing something, right? Now the proximity of the setup, how prices are behaving is now much more compelling and far more actionable. So lots of things on the radar in terms of proximity, and then quite a few things that are on the radar for hopefully some profit taken this morning. We saw some interesting action in bonds overnight. And take a look at this ZB. We were all over 165 overnight. Last night, 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. And I'm thinking, oh, it'd be so great to see this 9:30 a.m. because then we'd be able to scale out of our long position in TLT that we've been in for quite a few sessions, looking for that resumption, that continuation to the upside. So yeah, I mean, we're all over that 165. We've been all over that 165 area. So my sector secrets folks and my futures folks, remember, that's T1. What does that mean? Why is the first target so important? Because that is where we pay ourselves and we move our stop to break even. All right, so good morning, good morning. Great to see everybody. All right, so first question. Hey there, William. Do I think the calendar looks to be cautious Tuesday and Wednesday this week? So if I look at the calendar, now remember, we do have earnings still. I mean, even though the high impact earnings in terms of those heavy weighted tech stocks has already happened, we still have earnings coming out. Tuesday is going to be interesting. We have core retail sales. So of course, while it's not an inflation gauge or a growth gauge, the health of the consumer is always a big deal because it's something that is going to indicate, at least towards the inflation, towards the growth, towards consumer behavior, definitely. And then, of course, big 1-2 punch. Great question on the Tuesday. Fed Chair Powell is going to be speaking at 1:30 on Tuesday Eastern, an online town hall event with audience questions. So yeah, Tuesday is going to be very interesting. 8:30 a.m. retail, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, Powell. And then going into Wednesday, we have CPI. So now we're talking about one of the pillars of macroeconomics. There's 4 pillars: growth, inflation, monetary policy itself, and money supply. And so we have not only CPI, then we've got meeting minutes. That's like being a fly on the wall, seeing the notes of the conversations that were being had at the previous meeting. So we get a little bit more insight into the discussions and maybe even the way in which they came to the tweaks on the policy. Did anyone dissent? Right? Was it full agreement? Things like that. So that is Wednesday. So yes, and then the rest of the week, quite frankly, including today, is pretty quiet. But looking ahead to Tuesday, yeah, the market might be sort of bracing itself for, again, core retail, Powell. It's a great question. Thank you, William. Great way to start the week off, right? And kudos, because that means you're starting the week off with a look at the calendar, because that's going to dictate those volatility times and what the market's looking ahead to. Because remember, Tuesday's action is going to affect Monday's action. So great question. Hey there, Dave. Just signed up to Sector. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you there, Dave. So for those of you that are just joining Sector Secrets, maybe this is your first week or you joined towards the end of last week, every Wednesday, I'm in the chat room with you all on the mic, starting at 9:20, just immediately following Charts and Coffee here. for live on the mic, Q&A, live trading, looking at our watch list, catching up with the trades that we have open. But that being said, Monday through Friday, I'm logged into that room. That is a room that I have open all day, whether I'm just watching the discussion, looking at where the pressure points, the confusion points are at, or just chiming in on the general chat. So I am very engaged in that room all week long. So looking forward to seeing you there, Dave. Awesome. Oh, what else do we have here? Debbie, double green, DUK. You know, Debbie, I was just looking at DUK last night when I was doing my scans. Nice pullback. XLU has been, definitely kicking back up into gear. Last week's free video and also premium video, I discussed that let's talk about sector rotation versus participation. And again, this is all going to be dependent on the way that you look at the market. There's no one way to say this is the definition. I'm not a big slave to the dogma of trading. I'm only looking for signs, setups, ultimately trades. There's a big difference between analyzing the market and talking about what has happened. I mean, really, that's the greater of who cares. And or being more proactive and saying, so this is what's happened and this is what I want to do about it. This is where the next trade is at. Be careful going down the analysis rabbit hole. I don't really consider myself a fan or even an analyst at all, because I don't care to talk about what has happened unless what has happened is setting up something I can do. So let's talk about rotation versus participation and what that means for us. Rotation typically means, and I think right now, sector rotation is nauseatingly being overused. It's an absolute incorrect way to look at this market right now based on my definition. So that means usually rotation is a Ferris wheel analogy. Rotation is literally the rotation of a wheel. One part of the wheel is going to be making connection with the tarmac while the other's, up in the wheel well of the car. I like to look at it as a Ferris wheel. There's one part where people have the great view and there's folks that are sitting at the bottom of the wheel, and it's always rotating. So if you think about sector rotation, something has to sell off and that flow benefits another market. I don't believe that's what we're seeing right now. Take a look at the broader sectors, take a look at the indices, a lot of flat stuff, but I don't see things rolling over while something is rolling up. That's usually sector rotation. The reason it's so important to notice that give and take is because if you're not getting rotation, what you're getting is participation. In other words, the market participants are looking around and saying, okay, I bought as much, NAS as I want to buy. I bought as much S&P as I want to buy, or I bought as much healthcare as I want to buy. What else can I go buy? I'm not going to ditch healthcare, but I can put money to work. Do you see the difference? There's money on the sidelines, gang. So if people are thinking, well, I don't want to buy these things that have been on a tear, but what's been lagging a little bit, let's go jump into that. A little bit of bargain hunting. That's a different thing than rotation. So be very careful pursuing this rotation narrative or listening to folks who are talking about a rotation narrative, because we're not seeing rotation. We're not seeing the top of the Ferris wheel, bottom of the Ferris wheel analogy. We're seeing actually money on the sidelines, and we're seeing more uptrends engaging, joining existing uptrends. So that means more guests are being invited to the party. Very different psychology. So I love the XLU. It's one of those corners of the market that when you consider utilities, staples moving higher in this market, a lot of times that could indicate rotation, right? Because that's largely considered defensives. But if I'm not seeing tech rolling over and S&P rolling over, a lot of high beta, high momentum names rolling over, this is participation. So always ask yourself, participation versus rotation. They are not the same thing. And great eye. Do I like DUK? I do, but I do also want to focus on some of the other names, because here's what's very tricky, Debbie. If you play an individual stock that's out of sync on the pullback as opposed to the tide, as opposed to a larger sector, if XLU pulls back, DUK is going to get crushed. So be careful with out of sync moves, but I'm with you. I do like the way that looks, and I do want to dive a little bit deeper into XLU. Why XLU? DUK is heavily weighted into XLU. So terrific question, and it opens up a huge discussion that must be had: participation versus rotation. Okay. All right. So moving on. Good morning. Good morning. Great to see everybody. All right. So we have Amazon. Hey there, Benny. AMZN. Sure. So here's what's tricky about Amazon and why I would say maybe look at some relative outperformers within the NASDAQ, within the S&P, and within XLY, the consumer discretionary ETF. This has been a laggard. It's been kind of a mess for a while. Is it in a zone that finally makes sense around 3,300? Yes. The reason I say yes is because we are now trading between the 200 exponential, and I use a prop propulsion tool for that. That's the white line, by the way. And we're sandwiched between that and the first of the year anchored volume weighted average price, the VWAP. In this area, doesn't mean we're going to launch out of it. It's not going to get catapulted out of here, but you really want to see some support build. I'd love to see some volume ledges develop in this area. And I haven't looked. Let's see. We don't have a lot of volume ledges building yet. We have some volume ledges way down at 32.20. We have a volume ledge up at 33.40, but nothing here. Well, I take that back. We do have the point of control at 32.93. That's kind of a big deal. We do have the point of control sitting just below 3,300. So that's going to be pretty beneficial to traders trying to build a long position as Amazon just tries to find some stable footing. Look, you have to have some traction before you move higher. You have to have some stable footing before you can ascend. So I think that's where we are right now. Yeah, so I do like it, but again, of all the things that I could be putting my capital into, first of all, Amazon is one of those pricey places that even if I go into a credit collection or collecting credit, right? A credit collecting strategy is you put credit spread. Please don't get fooled into thinking if I've collected credit, somehow I'm immune to bad timing or just a market that's not going to go higher. If you've collected credit and it sits in this area, okay, great. If you've collected credit and it moves higher, on the collected credit on the put, right? Great. But if it moves lower, and I'm not saying it will, but it's not moving higher, right? We don't have a path of least resistance clearly to the upside. We really just have a zone of support. So good place, as good a place as any to start thinking about where Amazon could stop moving lower. It doesn't guarantee moving higher. What are my thoughts on Tesla? Tesla's going to open a little bit lower today because I think 704 was what I was seeing as some of the quotes. I did see on my phone this morning that they're opening up some kind of investigation. What the heck is it? So on Bloomberg regarding the autopilot crashes and emergency vehicles, something like that. It's not good news. I don't think it's going to send Tesla tumbling, but for those of you that have been waiting for a dip to buy because Tesla is a fresh double green, this is actually looking pretty good. This might be the pitch that you have been waiting for a pullback to buy into. So I think that's, we've got this news, which is going to be tricky to navigate through because ultimately what we have is a market that's very freshly turned into an uptrend. It's vulnerable, right? Fresh uptrends are vulnerable, but we've got this news that's putting us in a zone where if we are looking to build, call vertical, or just straight up long calls, or even if you want to build a put credit spread, this bearish momentum is the strike, is the pitch that could be a really nice opportunity in our zone, in our strike zone for that. Okay, natural gas. Hey, Donald. Yeah, I've had natural gas open now, and yeah, natty gas can be a wild one, which is why we've been playing UNG. I have no interest in natty gas today, Donald. If you check out, I think we talked about this in a free video, But we're already long UNG based on the pullback in natty gas from last week. Thursday and then Friday gave us our opportunity to get long. So now that natty gas is moving higher this morning, we're going to see UNG up on the open. Now that natty gas is moving higher, this is just follow through. This is not the pitch for me. The pitch for me has got to be moving lower as I'm buying those calls, or moving lower as I'm legging into a call vertical, or moving lower as I'm building a put credit spread. Today's where our patience and our tactics are hopefully going to play out, and we're finally seeing the rebound and the continuation to the upside. So I love what I'm seeing on natty gas futures. Should give us a nice open on UNG this morning, but not an opportunity to enter. That was last week. That was Thursday. That was Friday. Okay. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question on natty gas. Let's see. What else do we have here? Steven says, hey, so Dave, our newest member to sector. Steven's one of our existing members, and I'll tell you, you're going to find a fantastic community there. Evidence, very cool, Steven, very cool. All right, representing the sector, I love it. So what do we have next? Where do I get my volume profile indicator? AJ, I like to use the one built into TradingView. TradingView.com. I love their charts, been using them for many, many years. And there's a couple free versions. I like the visible range volume profile, but there's a number of free ones on the platform. Any of those will do, okay? Let's see. When would I not buy a pullback? Line Watcher. So pullbacks, the use of the word pullback for me means that there's already a trend. It may not always be a double green, but it does mean that the directional bias is up, preferably in the structure of a nice trend. So the word pullback is specifically going to be used in the context of bullish directional bias or bearish directional bias. Oh, I should say bounce in a downtrend, a pullback in an uptrend. So when would I not? Again, presuming that the requisite is there, that it's a directional bias clarity that you have. When would I not? Inside 2 weeks to earnings, I will be very cautious. If there is a major event on the economic calendar, I may wait for that event to come and go, because remember, if I buy a pullback in front of a major event, then that means I've got to sit through the volatility of that event. So pullback or not, remember this, FOMC, we have 2 FOMC events, Powell and then the meeting minutes. Look, those events don't care one bit where my secret squiggle is sitting, right? That's where technical analysis and charting will take a little bit of a back seat, while the volatility and the psychology of that event is going to be the primary driver. So I think that those types of events are probably the biggest reason where I would say, hey, I like the structure, I'd love a pullback, but let's get the timing right so it dovetails with the volatility and the pullback at the same time. So I have a little bit better confirmation of exhaustion. And that's probably the most common way that I would not say I'm not going to buy the pullback, but I would like that pullback to accompany the event so that I can take full advantage of the volatility. All right. So let's see. What do I feel about VIX direction? Yeah, I really haven't put that much thought into the VIX, other than, for those of you that are wondering, is there a potential buy in the VIX? Yeah, I mean, there's a potential buy in the VIX now. So if you're one of those traders who loves to scale into the VIX at the bottom of a range during low volatility, now is the time to do it. Now's where that opportunity is probably forming. Obviously, any reason that sends the VIX higher is not going to be one we see. But I'll tell you what, yeah, this is a really good zone. Take a look. We've got the Darvis, we've got a yellow JT multi, number of support zones. Yeah, I like this a lot. As far as in this zone, between those 2 Darvis, starting to think about building a long call VIX position. Yeah, that may be something. If we could move down a little bit later today or tomorrow, that might be better. Friday might have really been the pitch, quite frankly. Friday, Thursday might have really been the pitch. So I might have missed that. But if you're in and you're long, love it. If you get another shot at it, that looks a little bit like Thursday or Friday's action. Beautiful. But Friday's action was perfection, really, for building a long VIX position. So good stuff. Great question there. All right. And just like that, gang, that's the end of Charts and Coffee. So I will see you all in both the rooms today. If you're a member of the Sector Secrets room, I'm going to go log in there. We're going to take a look at the way ZB is reacting, because I think we're going to get that 165 open. And that means we're going to be able to see ZB an entire handle higher than it was on Friday. We're going to be able to scale out of some of those TLT calls. This will be what, for the fourth time we've scaled up with this TLT. Beautiful ongoing trade. And then at 3 p.m. Eastern today, I'll be in both the futures and the options room for the close. Okay. Thanks as always, gang. Be good to each other, and I'll see you tomorrow.